Hello, BookTube. It's Friday, and here's Friday Reads with the mail haul and maybe a few more things. I caught a few books yesterday as well as today. We'll start out with because it's right on top of everything here. Start out with a big set. It's only a partial set. It's the first 12 volumes of the Thomas and Jane Carlyle letters. Started in 1970 by Duke University Press. It's sort of a co-Duke University and University of Edinburgh done. And there's 12 volumes. They all are this sort of cream-colored, nondescript collected letters of Thomas Jane Welsh Carlyle. This is volume 5. All generally around 400 and some pages. And it goes through, and I believe they're up to volume 48 will be put out this year, and they're calling it a journal. Basically, it's a yearly journal. I think once a year. They've been doing it for quite a while. And they should be done soon. Here's volume 4. As I say, it looks much the same. I won't dwell on them too much. It's just, it's one of these sets that I've known about for a long time, and I thought I would never, ever sort of have it. I've got a mental list of sets I'll never have. The 80-some volume University of Toronto Press, Erasmus, the Loeb Classical Library, I'd love to have all that. The Dunbarton Oaks Medieval Library, all by Harvard. The Taddy Library of the Renaissance. And then they started a new one, which is the Sanskrit, which I can't remember the title off the top of my head. And the list goes on and on of sets that I know I'll never probably have. But as I say, this is a good start. I thought I'd look for just a couple volumes to see, and I thought I'd just sort of grab a couple cheap random volumes. But then I saw there was 3 sets. That there was a 9-volume set that was about £80. Then I found a 12-volume set for $140 that looked really, really good condition. And I hummed and hawed, and I go, well, I don't know. I kept looking, and I found this one, 12 volumes, rougher condition. Asked for a lot of photographs, and I seemed to be happy with it. I asked if it had any mold or smell, and they said no. Well, that was a lie, or the person probably is a smoker or can't smell at all. There is a smell to them, but it's not too bad. I think it's just it's been sitting out in a garage somewhere or a shed, because you can feel the dampness in it. So I'm hoping they will sort of dissipate in time, the smell, because it's not very heavy, and there is some soiling, so I'll clean them up as best I can, so maybe get rid of some of the smell there as well. But as I say, it's just there. But I got them for the price of a large pizza, so I can't complain. I really can't complain. So these are going to look nice, and I'll keep an eye out for the continuing volumes from 13 volumes up to 48 as time goes on, and see what happens. And just buy them slowly and dip into them here or there. I don't ever expect to read them fully. It'll be more of interest when I'm reading somebody or reading about the period, and then because they wrote to almost every literary figure there was at the time, the intelligentsia, so I can go through the index and say, oh, just look at these ones, and just sort of do it that way. So it's a nice resource. And yesterday I got the 5th volume of T.S. Eliot's letters, and this one's a bit shorter. It's just over 800 pages. It encompasses, what years here? It is 1930 to 31. And as I say, I am behind because there's now 9, but I'm just over halfway, and I'll continue on with those. This one was a punt. When I was looking for something else, this came up. It's the Charles and Mary Lamb letters by Cornell University. There's 3 volumes. This was just over £2. I thought I'd take a gamble on it. It's again, you can see the boards are warped a bit. I think it's just this dampness and where they've kept these books, that they're just, the pages, you can feel the dampness just soaked in, and I'm hoping that they will go and correct themselves in time. Nicely illustrated as well throughout, a few illustrations. As I say, it's Cornell University Press, 1975, edited by Edwin W. Mars Jr., and I've ordered the other 2 volumes for this. They weren't much more. I think they came to, well, they were a bit more than this, but I think they came to just over £10 for the other 2 volumes. And if this one, I'm happy with the condition of this, and it looks like the others are going to be very similar, if not maybe a little better. I do have a set of Charles Lamb. It's either late, I can't remember now, but it's a late 19th century, early 20th century. It's got some modeling on the covers, and somebody has done the end papers. So they've it looks like they probably, the hinges were cracking and falling apart. I got it very cheap, so I'm happy with it. It's I believe there are newer editions, but I don't think it has all the letters that these 3 have. But considering that I'm going to get the 3 volumes for less than £15, I'm fine if there is a bit of overlap. I also got this, nice, it's a Folio Society, nice pictorial slipcase. It is Daniel Defoe's tour through the whole island of Great Britain. It's a second printing, single volume second printing of Folio Society. Nice end papers, or that's not the end paper, sorry, that's the title page and frontispiece, I guess you would call it, even though it serves as 2006. It's copiously illustrated. Every page or so has colored and black and white illustrations. It's, get my hand and finger in the right place so you can see it better. Yeah, and it's been a long time since I've read this, over 30 years, I believe, in a mass market Penguin paperback. And that was quite nice. That took a long time to get here. It took a couple of weeks. Now, the last book was a book that I saw on Richardson Reads, Mark Richardson's channel. He was talking about the Mars-a-thon. I think that's what they're calling it. The John Carter Barsoom novels. They're going to be reading 1 a month. There's 11 of them, so now it'll be 11. I believe there's 11, yeah. And they'll be reading those for the rest of the year. I might join. I'd like to join if I can get the books. I haven't had them for many, many years, probably close to 30 years, 25 at least. But he was reading from an Arthur C. Clarke book called Greetings, Carbon-Based Bipeds. It's essays, 1934 to 1998 collection, and as soon as I saw it, I need to get that. And so I went online, and again, I lucked out. It said as new. I was hoping for very good, and got this very nicely. I think it was just under £8 with shipping, so I'm very pleased with that. And I'm sure that's going to spark more interest in wanting to read science fiction again. I did a tag yesterday that Steve Donahue, the Skyrim or whatever, it's a video game apparently, but there was some interesting questions, and it made me think of some science fiction books, specifically James P. Hogan, who I dearly liked as a writer. I haven't read his stuff for a long time. I thought, up until the time I was coming home from work, I thought I had read almost every single thing he wrote. And I found a list of his books. I go, I haven't read that. I haven't read that. I didn't know about any of those. So there's probably about 6 books 6 novels at least that I knew nothing about. So I'm hoping that I can find these eventually. I would like to get the Giants series, Giants trilogy, again, and yeah, just many, many, many more. Um, and I want to get back into reading. I think some science fiction, even classical, golden age science fiction, which that was my big thing. And it must have been. It was after I came back from my field school, and that when I was in Egypt and Jordan. This was in '91. I had a tough year after that with financial wise, and I was basically walking back and forth to school, the university, and there was a time that I couldn't continue because I didn't have the tuition. So, and I couldn't find a job. So there was about 6 months there that I think I just sat and read day in, day out science fiction. I was reading. I was just burning through magazines, stories, novels, just everything I could lay my hands on. I was burning through probably several, 3, 4, 5 novels a day because these are short. Like, you're not even talking 200 pages, so very easy to do. So I was, for the 6 months, I don't know, I read probably several thousand books. I just went crazy on that. And I continued for quite a while, for several years, reading huge amounts of science fiction. And I had a massive collection of magazines. I had early analogs. I had almost every Galaxy magazine that there was, because I was able to get the early ones. And I think I had all of Isaac Asimov magazine up at that time, because that was a newer magazine. I had every single issue, and I think I pretty well read every single issue. And I had hundreds and thousands of these things. Not hundreds of thousands, sorry. Hundreds and thousands of these digest magazines. And then some pulps as well. I was able to get some early 30s pulps. And I was buying one specifically with Clifford Simak in it. But I grabbed anything I could if I saw them cheap enough. But yeah, no, they're all gone, and it just, and a lot of my stuff, like all my books that I had in Canada, are gone, and this kind of thing, the Marsathon makes me think of those, and also Steve Donohue did his on his Penguins. I didn't realize Penguin did some ancient Egyptian writings. There's a collection of various ones. And then they did Wallace Budge's Book of the Dead, which flabbergasted me that they would use that. It's fantastic. I love it. It's really, it's got a charm all its own, the translation. And John Romer does the introduction by the sounds of it. I'm definitely going to have to pick this up at some point. But it made me miss all my archaeology books, my especially Egyptology books. I had oodles and oodles of ancient Egyptian writings. There was a fairly big set. They were only paperback, but there must have been like 8 or 10 volumes, big volumes of literature. They were hieratic. A lot of stuff from Deir al-Medina, which was the workers' village that built the Valley of the Kings, that dug the tombs. And there's just so much there. They had them on pieces of stone, and they would just write the hieratic hieroglyphs. And there's letters. There's and I just love things like Bob. I'm just making up a name, but like Bob can't come to work today because he was in a bar fight last night. And it's just on and on of stuff like that. That's just so fantastic. And Steve said there's no novels and fiction. Well, not of the period of, I believe, of the Book of the Dead, but later there were, like at the hieratic time, there was, and a lot of pornography. Pornography was quite big for that period too. So there is fiction in the sense of fiction, and novels and stories. But most of the time you just don't see it. It has these are specialist publications, and I had a lot of this. I also had a lot of Babylonian cuneiform volumes. The University of Toronto put out they just continually put out series, book after book of translations of cuneiform tablets. Nothing super, like they're basically shopping lists, a lot of them economic texts and so forth. And then I had stuff Ugaritic texts, Sumerian. Well, the big Sumerian is the Epic of Gilgamesh, where there's been several translations, but there's been collections of Mesopotamian writings. And I just miss all that stuff in the archaeology, the history. I just miss it all, having these books. And when I came to England, I decided I wasn't going to look into that stuff. And I've been pretty good for 15 years. But the nostalgia is getting to me now, I think. I don't know what I'm going to do about it because I don't have the space for this or the wherewithal to recreate even anything that I had. But I think I will pick up a few things. I couldn't pass up. It's on a shelf. I can see them here a little bit. 3 volumes, Mass Perot's 3 volumes, Near East volumes with a little bit of Egypt. It's Mass Perot's Egypt that is fantastic. I'm sure Mark Richardson knows what I'm talking about. Is Mass Perot's Egypt. And then there's just single volumes like books by Breadstead, his Assyria book, his Egypt book. Anyway, I could go on and on and on. Wallace Budge, I had tons of his stuff. But I'll end it there, BookTube, because my nostalgia is getting away with me for old Near Eastern and Egyptology books. Which is a very, very special and niche and special to my heart, but we'll see. But I do want to get, the one thing is that John Romer, he is an Egyptologist that I really, really dearly love, and he's done at least 2 massive volumes that I found out recently of History of Egypt. And I don't think it's even finished, so I will have to look into those to get, because I will need to get those, especially the way I feel now. I do want to start reading and rereading a lot of this stuff. But anyway, BookTube, 18 minutes in. Have a good reading weekend, and I will see you again. Take care.